This is Dr. Carol Francis. I have a very special guest, Josie Tuddel. She's here to tell her very personal experience with an eating disorder. This is not a simple journey. This is a long and complex journey. She's going to tell you, sharing intimate details about her life, not to expose herself, but to help you. Thank you so much, Josie, for coming
very
here
welcome.
today.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. You started your journey how long ago?
It was about 6 years ago when I guess the eating disorder really took hold of me. I struggled mainly with anorexia. Started out with me going into a deep depression, and I lost a little weight, just naturally, not as hungry. And then I realized, wow, I'm really good at losing weight. And that felt good. It was different to really feel like I had something that I could control like that. Something that most people in the world would want. Everybody says, I want to lose weight. How do you do it? How do you stay so skinny? And unfortunately, wrong methods.
Wrong methods. So suddenly you find yourself being the envy of other people who are also caught up in the skinny me syndrome, if I can say that.
Indeed.
And you're the envy, and you also like what you are experiencing as well.
Yes, that's a huge part of it. Even when I was at my lowest weight, I couldn't see that as looking unhealthy or unattractive as most other people would. I mean, I had friends and family who would be like, you're just way too thin. It's not attractive. It doesn't look healthy at all. And I thought, oh, whatever. I'm in size 2 jeans. It's perfect.
And you thought you had accomplished it. You had accomplished.
There was definitely a sense of accomplishment. And with each weight goal that I would set and get lower and lower and lower, the accomplishment just grew. And the more I did, just the better I felt about myself. But at the same time, I started hating myself more and more.
What a dilemma. Why hating yourself?
Well, it puts a spotlight on everything that's you think is wrong with yourself. I grew up as a very perfectionist sort of child, very much a pleaser, always wanting to do the right thing and make people happy, and it just, everything gets so wrapped up in it, and the eating became my way of acting out those traits.
There has to be a lot of self-denial, a lot of self-hatred that comes into you saying, I have to be this in order to be perfect.
Definitely.
What is that self-hatred like inside? What does it feel like? What form does it take? How does it impact relationships?
Tremendously. It really feels like I have two sides to my brain, one that's healthy and one that's just the enemy, complete evil. I have a little bit of the rational side, that would be saying, you really need to eat more than, such and such throughout the day. And then the other side of me would be like, no, you don't. You're different than other people. You don't need to eat that. They need to. You don't need to. So it was just a constant battle, just back and forth. Some people would, I guess, kind of describe it as different personalities, but it was really, really hard to manage, and it just felt like craziness.
Would anybody know that you were going through these battles, or would you always wear the face of composure and together? Would anybody see this dilemma, this battle, this argument going on in your head?
Definitely not.
No one. It was disguised.
And until my weight got low enough, nobody knew. I would always have this smile. Even in therapy, it took me an entire year with my therapist, who I adore, to cry in front of her, a whole year. And she said, why are you always smiling? You don't have to smile in here. And I thought, oh, that is interesting, because I'd be sad or angry and, say it like this. I'm so sad right now.
Was that trained? Did you get a message or lots of messages that you were supposed to always appear to be together?
I'm sure I did. And I think anger, for women in this society, it's looked down upon. You shouldn't be angry. You should take the higher road, be the bigger person, that sort of thing. So those messages are very much entrenched in our culture, I think.
So anger as part of the healing of eating disorders, let's say in general, your experience with anger, how did that work its way into being healed from an eating disorder?
I had no concept of what it was like to be angry for practically my whole life. You know, anger was something that I would stuff down so deep. And when I would try to express it, it would come out as hurting myself. I've heard somebody describe depression as anger turned inward, and that's exactly what it was. I would use the starving and self-harm just as a way to express it, you know, whatever I could do on the outside to release what was going on inside.
Okay, so now we have to go to the point where you said, I am destroying myself. But interestingly, you did not have a lot of medical complications, which a lot of people with eating disorders do.
Right, that was a very tricky part of it. I used that to sort of further my disorder. I would think, you know, I'm still menstruating, I don't have any issues with my blood work, and I would keep getting tested. People would say, you need to go to the doctor and get all these tests done, and besides, you know, a little dizziness here and there, I stayed pretty healthy. And I mean, I went down a good 30 pounds from what I was supposed to be.
Oh my goodness.
And still just
where you were
great.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, so there were definitely many times where I thought, okay, well, this is my rock bottom. But that wasn't it. And I found I could go lower.
Testing the limits. And how many times did you do that?
Uncountable. Just kept going and going and going. It was always, oh, just a few more pounds.
What does an eating disorder give you? What does anorexia give you? What are the gifts of that complication? I know it's an odd way to say it, but that's what you're describing.
I definitely understand that. It's a sense of power,
okay,
and control, and also for me, the idea of it being something special that was just mine. That was a big piece of it. Something about it made me feel unique.
Because no one else was doing it around you. It was just you.
I guess, and the whole world is so focused on weight loss, and I'm thinking, I don't have to deal with that. So
I've mastered it.
Yeah.
They've got problems. I've mastered it.
It was a very sick way of thinking.
You say that now pretty clearly, but how did you transition from saying this is optimal, this is a gift, I've got something others don't, to saying this is sick?
A lot of work. Seeing the impact that my eating disorder had on my relationships and just my desire really to live. I mean, I've been to the point several times where I just didn't care, you know, if somebody hit me on the highway and killed me. I wouldn't mind. I thought that so many times, just the depression would get so dark and so deep. And eventually, at some point, well, at many points, I would think, I don't want to live like this. This isn't living. This is just merely surviving.
So family members and friends with people they love that have eating disorders, they're vexed. What do we do? You can't police someone's eating. You can't force them to eat. You can't plead with them enough. It all has to come from the person's own awareness that they have an eating disorder and they need help. But nonetheless, the families and friends are often frantic to know what to do. What's your advice to those individuals?
I think the number one thing is to let that person suffering know that you're never going to give up on them. Plain and simple.
Wow.
They can't fix the person. It's not going to work. But just knowing that no matter how many times the person recovering slips up and slips up and slips up, that they're still going to be there for them.
You have brought with you a number of different canvases, pieces of artwork that you used as part of one of your types of therapy.
Right.
Can you describe what that process was for you and how that helps?
Sure, yeah. I started collaging a few years ago. I would just look through magazines, and the great thing about that sort of art is that a lot of times I didn't know what I was thinking or feeling. It was just a huge jumble. And looking through these magazines, I would find pictures and words, colors, images, just things that sort of felt, hey, that seems right. So I'd cut it out, put it down. Sometimes I would have a theme, like they would give us an art directive. but sometimes it was just whatever I was feeling at that time. And it takes a different part of your brain, I think, to recognize these images and these words, and you really don't know what else to say and how to express it. The thing with eating disorders is that the person is so ambivalent. You know, with depression, of course you want to feel better, but with an eating disorder, it serves so much, such a purpose there, and you think, what am I without that? So that ambivalence, not wanting to give it up, is huge. This one's pretty powerful. The theme for this one was, what would your eating disorder say if it had a voice? And this picture I found in a magazine was just stood out. And
be the best.
Be the best.
And that is a vexation as opposed to an inspiration.
Yeah. Be perfect. Be quiet. Keep whatever you're struggling with to yourself. Don't burden other people. And we have this puppet master here who's just holding the rain cloud over me. I've labeled so many of my emotions in the past as good and bad. And when it comes down to it, they're emotions. They're not good. They're not bad. They just are what they are. And so once I figure that out, they're all okay. And none of them last forever. You know, when you're sad or upset, you're going to, get through that. So it's just something I had to learn to deal with.
So this emotion, fear.
Fear. Huge.
Of?
Pretty much anything. I feared life in general. I feared not being successful, not reaching personal goals or goals that I assumed other people had set for me. Here we have this little quote that I got out of a magazine that I think describes, for me, anorexia really, really well.
How so?
It says, an intriguing invitation, a revealing discovery, a promise of adventure, a whispered romance, a question answered, a secret kept.
And that sounds very inspirational.
It's very seductive.
But how? Very seductive.
I almost imagine, a being outside of myself as being the anorexia and controlling what I do and saying, this is okay, this is not. That's what it's like. It's almost like a friend who's an enemy at the same time, but she keeps convincing you that she's your friend, that sort of thing.
I would think that the journey that you're on now is for you to have a relationship with you that's about liking who you authentically are, all the chinks and all the mistakes and all the glamour, playfulness, emotional states that move all over the map, and for you to grow easy with being you.
Right.
Having that easy relationship so that you can feel the freedom of who you are in your beauty and in your ugliness.
Perfection doesn't exist.
Thank you, Josie.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Carol Francis. Thanks for joining us.